Hi, I'm Jeanne Fiorini. Thanks for joining the Tarot Tips. Today we're going to talk about a somewhat old-fashioned notion in working with tarot cards, and that's the use of a significator. This is a term that you might have run across in your reading or in your practice. I do think it's used less commonly than it used to be. It's something that on a regular basis, even though this idea appeals to me, that I have resisted. And I'll say why in a few moments. The idea is to take out of your 78 cards to think about what it is or who it is or what part of yourself you want to ask about, and then draw a card that relates to that from your 78. So for instance, let's say if I wanted to maybe have a child, I might pull out the Queen of Pentacles and work with her specifically. So I would draw her from the deck and then pull cards around that. Perhaps if I wanted to work on healing, if I wanted to work on letting my body find its way to wellness, I might pull out the Temperance card, a card of gentleness and sometimes called the healing card. If I were to be starting a new business and wanted to make sure it was as concrete and successful as it could be, I might pull out the Emperor card and work with the energy of that, looking at different aspects of that. I think in some ways the traditional thought about the significator is that it needs to be either a personality card or a major arcana card. This doesn't necessarily have to be so. Let's say I've been tormented by a past relationship and I just want to be done with it. I might draw the Ten of Swords from my tarot deck and say, I just want to be finished. I don't want to be thinking about this. I don't want to be worrying about it. I don't want to have to try to understand it anymore. I might pull out the Ten of Swords and say, this is a good card that represents where I want to be in regards to this old or finished relationship. Let's say things are going really well and you want to work on support the notion of continued happiness, of feeling like you're content with where things are for you right now. The Nine of Cups would be a great card for that. I've said before, I don't really like to support the notion of emergency room tarot. We should be using, or could be using, our cards not necessarily when things make a turn for the worse, but when things are going well, and when we can work with the symbology of the cards to help augment positive things, good things, prosperity, communication, companionship, love, support in our life. So this notion of drawing one card from the deck and using that to focus on is a very appealing idea, especially for somebody like myself who likes a clear question, who likes a focused inquiry when you're working with your cards. My only issue with it has been that when you take a card out of the deck, you take a card out of the deck. You don't have all then the 78 pieces of your total tarot deck to work with when you're addressing your issues. So, it's a bad pun, but I like to work with a full deck. I like to, if I'm going to be working with the tarot, I want all 78 cards at my disposal. So it's sort of an obvious solution to this problem, but I was at a workshop the other day and somebody piped up and said, well, I just pull a card from a different deck. And I use that as the significator, and then I use the deck that I want to be working with, 78 cards, to address that issue. And well, that made me very happy because that solves the problem of taking something out of the deck, and it still gives you a focal point for your inquiry. So if you're going to use this as a significator as a means to be looking at any issue, I really would encourage the use of, it requires that you have 2 decks, but my guess is most of you have at least that many tarot decks. To pull the significator from a different set of cards, use that to focus your energy. I'll just make a few points about the kinds of ways you could use your significator. or the kinds of questions. Let's say it's something positive that you want to continue supporting, like the Nine of Cups. I might draw a couple of cards with, well, what can help retain this quality in my life? Pick out 2 or 3 cards for that. You might want to pull out a hindrance for what's something that I need to be mindful of that might distract or pull away or water down the contentment that I feel in my life. What might be a negative force toward this? What might I need to be careful of? Let's say, so pulling helps and hinders. These sorts of things are explained pretty well in my Tarot Spreads and Layouts book. If you don't have a copy of that, it's a very useful tool for some of these basic ways to use your cards. Let's say I am going to be using this Emperor card, and I'm wanting to think about, okay, how can I best work with this energy? You might pull a card for the past influence and a card for the future influence. How has this energy worked for me in the past, or maybe not worked for me? What's my relationship to this energy in the past? What's my relationship to this energy in the future? Essentially, you can use any, I would suggest simple layout, but you can use any method or layout or spread and insert the significator in what seems to you to be the pivotal part of the layout, and then draw the other cards in the layout as you would. So I hope that gives you perhaps a new and interesting way to work with your cards. You can get a lot of useful information by zeroing in and asking specific questions around the card that you have pulled intentionally from your tarot deck. So thanks for tuning in. Please send in your thoughts, your questions. I always like to hear from subscribers. And we'll see you next time.